Good morning, everyone. So, speakers, if I could have you turn on your cameras if it's not already turned on. Thank you, Grace. Thank you, Aruna. I think Satyajit, let me move Satyajit onto the stage. He's sitting in the audience. We'll bring him in. Satyajit, if you so I'm going to do a quick crash course for our speakers and anyone who joins in on how to unmute yourselves and also share your screens. It's going to be the quickest demonstration there is. So if you see my screen, everybody, right? Oh, and I've created the mirror effect. I'm sharing the screen that I'm also using. At the bottom, so ignore this at the top, but at the bottom, you've got the share button, you've got the mic and the camera. And then also, some of you will have the chat instead of the lobby and the more. So if you go to chat or participants or Q&A, you'll be able to send in your questions and you'll be able to see who else is there. You'll be able to also chat with people directly with this audience. So go ahead and say hellos in your chat. Let us know that you can hear us and that you're here. And we are recording this session. So we would like for you to be mindful and stay muted. Thanks, Aruna. Stay muted until you're asked to present, or if you have a question and we'd like to hear from you, we may ask you to come on stage. And at that time, feel free to unmute yourself and ask away directly. So as I promised, it is a crash course of how to use this tool. And it is 10:05. And I want to be mindful of time. The session is being recorded. And I do want to thank everybody, especially our speakers, for making the time this morning to inspire us. So the first hour is about inspiration. And here we have three amazing friends, mentors, experts, leaders in our region and in the Texas area. Grace Rodriguez, who represents Impact Hub Houston. Aruna, and I know I always butcher her last name, but it's Viswanathan. Am I close? Did I do it? Oh, you're still muted, Aruna. I'm gonna.
Viswanathan.
Okay, I was close.
You're very close.
Pretty close. Aruna V is how I'm gonna. And then so Aruna will obviously share a little bit about her, but she is our AI expert today. And then Satyajit, which is an interesting last name, because I usually find doctor in the front of the name, but as a prefix. But Satyajit will share with us inspirations in the 5G space, and we'll also share a little bit about what he's looking forward to in that space. So with that, speakers, I'm going to ask Grace to kick us off. And as more people join in, I'll monitor the chat and the Q&A. But let's take it away, Grace. Whenever you're ready, if you've got a presentation, hit that share button and share away. And then around, right at 10:25, we'll switch over to our next speaker, and we'll wrap up this event. By 11, we'll move on to the next part of the program. We'll tell you more when we get there. Grace, take it away.
Okay, thank you so much, Ravi. Making sure that everyone can see the screen right now. And let's get to it. So thank you very much, Ravi and TiE, for this wonderful opportunity to talk with you about something I'm really passionate about, how to do well while doing good. For background, I'm Grace Rodriguez, Executive Director of Impact Hub Houston. And Impact Hub Houston is a nonprofit organization that provides intentional programs, inclusive communities, and an international network to empower changemakers and help them create solutions with scalable impact aligned with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, or SDGs. We work alongside about 100 locally founded and led impact hubs in over 56 countries around the world, and we each support each other in this global network as we collectively work towards similar missions for our communities. I'm really excited for the session because, like all of you at TiE, we want to help more change makers like you become effective impact entrepreneurs who go on to launch successful ventures. In the next few minutes, we'll cover what social entrepreneurship is, how to identify your purpose, how to create your theory of change, and how to plan for your venture sustainability. So first, what is social entrepreneurship and impact innovation? Social entrepreneurship and impact innovation is simply using your problem-solving capacity to achieve positive fundamental change through innovative approaches. You might want to solve a problem for your community. Oops, I'm getting some feedback from Mr. Paul. Um, you might want to solve a problem for your community, for a population you care about, for the environment, for your city or region, or for a global or universal issue. At impact hubs around the world, we're beginning to move from calling it social entrepreneurship to impact entrepreneurship because in many cultures, social implies only people-related issues, while impact also includes all planet-related issues like climate change and life above land and life below water. So with that, impact entrepreneurs create impact ventures, which have also been referred to as triple bottom line ventures, one that equally care about people, planet, and profit. Many corporations also now refer to these types of ventures in terms of ESG, or environmental, social, and governance strategies. But regardless of the terms that are used, impact entrepreneurs all prioritize positive impact and then intentionally optimize their business model to create that impact. And if you aren't familiar with the United Nations Sustainable Development Goals, these have been formulated as directional guides for impact innovation. So they were created as a call to action to end poverty, protect the planet, and ensure that all people enjoy peace and prosperity by 2030. Although these goals are pledged by the United Nations member states, which are made up by about 193 countries, these issues must be addressed from more than just a governmental standpoint. The creativity, know-how, technology, and financial resources from all of society, from people like you, is necessary to achieve the SDGs in every context, which is where you all come in. So in general, to identify whether a venture is an impact venture, you can ask yourself, does it prioritize impact? Impact venture prioritizes purpose just as much as, or even more so than it does profit. The venture's ability to change people's lives or improve the world isn't just a side effect of your work, but it's really a core part of who you are, what you do, and how you do it. Secondly, does it create impact? So the outputs and outcomes that are created by an impact venture should demonstrate progress towards the positive goals that you're aiming for. And then does it use responsible business practices? Whether you're opting for a for-profit or a nonprofit model, an impact enterprise should strive for financial sustainability and growth, because you won't survive if you can't make money to keep the venture going. Some people think that if you want to do good, you should start a nonprofit organization, but there are so many different models for financial sustainability that you can consider for your own structure. I actually recommend that people go for-profit before they decide to go nonprofit, because it's easier to convert a for-profit venture into a nonprofit than vice versa. And then for-profits also provides you a lot more flexibility in what kind of business model, what kind of revenue generators that you can create for your business, for your venture. So first, there is a nonprofit. It's a tax-exempt, non-business entity that invests their excess funds back into the mission. There's a cooperative form for an impact venture, which is a business organized by and for its members. And examples of that are credit unions or community grocery stores. REI, if you're familiar with that outdoor gear store, is an example of a co-op. There are impact firms, which employ those in the community who need jobs. There's a venture called Fair Start, F-A-R-E Start, and it employs at-risk youth to serve healthful meals. So that's one example of an impact firm. There are impact responsible or socially responsible businesses, and these are companies that support impact missions as part of their day-to-day business operations. There are obviously, all types of for-profits, and Warby Parker is one of those, or Tom's Shoes, where it's buy one, give one. So you buy a pair of shoes, buy a pair of eyeglasses, and they'll give a pair to somebody who in an underserved or disadvantaged community. And then finally, there are B corporations. And these are private certifications that are issued to for-profit companies by B Lab, which is a global nonprofit organization. And to be granted and receive certification, companies must receive a minimum score on an online assessment in impact and environmental performance to satisfy the requirement that the company integrate B Lab commitments into their company governing documents. They make sure that their stakeholders abide by those governance issues as well. And then you have to pay an annual fee ranging from $500 to $50,000. And so I recommend B Corporation as the last formation that you can convert to, because it has so many requirements on you. It's harder to innovate. It's harder to pivot if you need to, especially when you're early on in launching your venture. When you become a B Corp, if you try to become a B Corp at the very beginning. And I have a couple of friends who have tried to start B Corporations as at the onset, and it actually took them so much more resources that they had to fold their venture. So how can you create your own impact venture to build a better future? Some people start impact businesses because they see an opportunity in a market that they want to capitalize on or they want to serve. Some people want to be their own boss and improve their quality of life. So, however, you're passionate about creating positive impact in the world and wanting to make it your life's work versus something you just volunteer a few hours a week to, you might consider starting an impact venture. And to start it, you have two immediate tasks. Find a problem that you care about or your purpose, and then seek to understand the problem deeply. You might have heard about human-centered design, and that's what that's about. It's really understanding who you're trying to serve, what is the problem that they're facing, and then what stakeholders are involved, what systems are in place that you might have to work around. So if you have your purpose in mind, great. You can get straight to work establishing your organization or building your venture. But if you're not, or you're stuck, or you realize you want to learn more about the problem that you want to solve before deciding it's something that you really want to pursue full time and put all your resources and effort into, here are some ways you can jumpstart ideas. You could interview people who are experiencing the problem that you want to solve. Ask them, who do you think needs help but isn't getting it? You could volunteer with organizations that address the impact issue that you care about. You could, and if you're in the Houston area, you can go to volunteerhouston.org and find a lot of different opportunities. I'm sure if you search for volunteer plus your city, you'll find an organization that's similar where you can find different nonprofits that are looking for people to help. You can also research and observe existing ventures and solutions. So I mentioned Warby Parker, REI, Tom's Shoes, but look at some people who are doing good in your community and see how they do it, and then do that research. You could do your own life audit, thinking about where in your past, what has shown up the most in your past, to see what have you been really passionate about. Because sometimes we feel like we don't know what we're passionate about, but when you look at your actions, you can see that you have demonstrated a passion for something. You can also draw a transition map to see where you could provide supports for more successful transitions for other people. So when you think about these questions, what gaps need to be filled? When have you needed something but you couldn't get to it, or no solution existed for it? How have others failed? In trying to create some change about something that you care passionately about. Those are all opportunities. Those will all present opportunities for you to create an impact venture. And as you think about, finding your purpose, then you can think about, well, how do I actually activate a solution towards, or create a solution towards this purpose? And for impact ventures, a theory of change is one of those tools that can help you take your purpose one step further and help map what needs to happen to achieve your desired impact. Creating one allows you to identify areas that require further review and to determine what data to collect over time to validate whether that theory holds up, which will be helpful as you develop your business model. So a good theory of change should answer 6 big questions. Who do you want to benefit? That meaning the target population. What benefits do you want to deliver? When do you want to achieve them? So within what time period? Because if it's within a short time period, so let's say with this recent winter storm, the time period is within this past week and the next couple months, we want to make sure we help people fix their houses when their pipes burst. So it's a very finite period of time, and it might not require a full out impact venture. But if you see that this is going to take 3 to 5 years, maybe a decade to actually achieve this kind of impact, that's when an impact venture could come into play. How will you and others make this happen? And thinking about others means that you really have to build a team. It's very hard to build an impact venture and create the impact that you want to see all by yourself. So really think about the team that you want to help you with. Where and under what circumstances will you do your work? And why do you believe that your theory will will succeed. And so as you start to define your theory of change, it is also important to clarify what you mean by impact, because it can take so many different forms. You could distribute your solution to thousands of people or change the lives of a few individuals in a very meaningful way. So you don't have to have a tremendous scale. You don't have to serve 1 billion people to have incredible impact. You can serve the lives or help people with upward mobility in your local community. But as long as it's meaningful, let's say you're bringing people out of homelessness, that's still tremendous impact. Your theory of change then will help you develop your business model, because it will help you answer who your customer is, who's going to purchase your product or service. And as an impact venture, it's also who will benefit, not just the people who will pay for it, your customers, but who will also benefit from your product or service. It'll help you define what market they're in. It'll help you think about what kind of product you need to deliver. Is it an app or a physical product or an online community? It will help you really define what kind of impact you want to create, because it is an impact venture after all. And then it'll help you define that business model. How will you make money? Which leads us to, how do you plan for sustainability? Impact ventures prioritize impact, but they must also strive for financial profitability to continue to exist and grow. And so while you may find seed capital or philanthropic funding just to get you off the ground, you ultimately need to develop a model that enables you to stay afloat without a constant influx of investment or charitable donations. And that's one of the key factors that differentiates an impact venture from a typical nonprofit organization or NGO. So early in your impact entrepreneur journey, you must explore and determine the best business model for you. And there are a wide variety of them. There's an earned income or fee-for-service model, which means that you package your product or service and sell them directly to beneficiaries or to an organization or company that's willing to pay for them. For instance, one of our members, Yop Records, has a program called Just Add Beats, which teaches young people how to make their own podcast music and do sound engineering, and they sell, they get a fee for that service for teaching those kids. There's also the format of micro-franchising or business in a box, and these types of impact enterprises license members of local communities to run business in a box or a franchise. And there's another impact venture called Winda Technologies, for instance, that provides solar panels and batteries to communities or families in Africa, and teaches them not only how to use the technology, but then how to charge people for charging their own phones, when they run out of power. And so this way, those families in Africa can then run their own business. There's also cross-subsidization, where the revenues generated from some customers are used to subsidize the goods or services provided to other customers. So for instance, for Impact Hub, we have 2 different membership models, an Accelerate model and a community membership model. And the Accelerate membership model is priced a little bit higher, and it helps offset the much lower cost of our community membership model. So the people who can pay more help the people who can't. There's also market linkage, and these types of impact enterprises work to connect entrepreneurs to markets. And this could take the form of buying a product from local craftsmen at local market prices and then selling it to an international market at an increased price. And an example of that is another one of our members, Sangar Rum. And so they actually buy sugarcane from farmers in Liberia, and they turn that into rum and then sell the rum to international markets, to international retailers. And they also teach the farmers and the local communities that those farms are in about entrepreneurship practices. And then they've created actually more economic development in those communities as those farmers get more money, becomes more successful. You find that more services pop up and more people decide to become entrepreneurs because of that. Another format is microphilanthropy, which is an emergent model of impact enterprise. And this is kind of like crowdfunding for good, facilitating the donation of money or goods or services to people in need. And finally, employment generation, or employing and creating jobs for people who are in populations that might have been historically disadvantaged in a variety of different ways. So they could be neurodiverse or on the autism spectrum. They could be second chance populations or people coming out of the prison or justice system. So employment generation is another form of a business model. So really reflect on, what's your purpose? Why do you want to start an impact venture? What are you really passionate about? What's your theory of change? How will you actually achieve impact towards that purpose? And then what kind of impact venture or what kind of business model would you want to build to implement that theory of change? And that's it. And if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A, or if you want to reach out to me directly, my email is grace.rodriguez@impacthub.net, or you can find me on Twitter @GraceRodriguez. Thank you.
Awesome, Grace. Thank you so much. Very inspiring to see purpose and profits and people all in one. We have a minute here, and I want to give the opportunity to let Mr. Paul Lopez, who is the chair of TiE University, just share hello before we, jump on to the next round of the inspiration. So, Paul.
Well, hello. There you go. That's the briefest short of introduction. I'm here more to say thanks for joining. We hope it'll be a great engagement and experience as you go through our hackathon. This is just a step on the journey where we would love to find every which way to give you rocket fuel to become entrepreneurs, whether you're launching a new venture or whether you're scaling. That's really what TiE does. So reach out, ask questions. This won't be the last time you're connected. So thank you for joining and taking the time.
Perfect. Thank you so much for that. And given that most of you have been invited through the TiE platform, that means you've already registered for the hackathon, and either you're looking for a team or you've already established a team. There will be a whole series of events starting as early as tomorrow, where you'll be invited to boot camps and more such inspirational messages. So I see the Q&A had started, and Grace, feel free to respond there. Aruna, I have you ready at 10:25. Are you?
Just
go ahead, Paul. Go ahead.
20 seconds more. If any of you want to form teams with college classmates or colleagues or people who've recently graduated, please have them register over the next couple of days. We'd love to have more students across the U.S. join.
I basically heard him say, if you've got friends who recently graduated, the hackathon is open to them as well. And
current
the more
students.
people you bring in, the higher the chances you have at the 15K prize, which I understand is growing. So it may be a surprise. You may end up getting access to more in-kind prizes on top of the cash prizes. So thanks for that, Paul. We'll certainly make sure to get the emails out of that information. All right, so Aruna, let me do a mic check from you really quick.
Sure, can you hear me?
Yes, excellent, we're ready to go. If you've got a presentation, hit the share button and present, or feel free to just talk away.
Yeah, no, I have a presentation. Let me just, let me get it up. Let's see if I can get it in presentation mode. All right, are you able to see the screen?
I'm still seeing the PowerPoint and not the full show.
Okay, hold on.
Mm-hmm. You must have multiple monitors.
I do. I do have multiple monitors.
And I'll just share with Paul, Aruna is a former TiE president, TiE Houston president, who's the reason I'm at TiE. He's actually the one who's introduced me into the TiE board. So very.
I'm going to have to put you on the second screen, even though.
Yep. See it?
My camera is going to be on one screen, and the presentation's on another. But we'll. Is that okay?
Yes, we can see it and we can see you. So
actually, there's another way I can do this, but I'm a little worried. Yeah, you're not able to see it. Okay, great. As long as you can see it, let me just.
We can see it.
All right, great. All right, tell me when, can I go ahead and begin?
You're good to go now.
All right, fantastic. All right. So first of all, I want to thank the organizers of for the TiE University and for this business hackathon for inviting me. And a good day to everybody around the world. My name is Aruna Viswanathan, and I am the co-founder and COO of a AI software company called Alpha X Decision Sciences. And I'm also a TiE Houston former president, and so I'm really excited to be here today to talk about the role of artificial intelligence in creating disruptive change. And this is a topic that I feel very passionate about, and I hope that I can show you a little bit about how this technology is going to change the future and how you can play a role in it. So the first thing I want to discuss is why are we here today? So we are here for a hackathon, but why do hackathons even exist? The way I look at it is there's really one reason, and that is that no problem can be solved with the same level of consciousness that created it. And another way you can think about this is crowdsourcing. We've probably heard that term, but you as students have a unique role to play because you have something that the rest of us simply don't have. And that is you have not been working in industry long enough to have bias. And as a result, you have no preconceived ideas, which is why your contributions make such a big difference to these activities. So what is happening in the world today? It is 2021. And what we're dealing with is a situation where humans in manual processes can no longer keep up with the level of change, network innovation, evolution, complexity. And as a result, we really need to be thinking of other ways that we can keep pace with that change. And advances in computing power and the ability to now store and have data has now allowed for a technology called artificial intelligence to come of age and be successful. And you may have heard these terms, AI, ML, data science, and you may not know how they apply. So let's talk a little bit about what is happening. So my degrees were in electrical engineering, so I had to take a lot of math. And it turns out that the insights derived from mathematics is what drives artificial intelligence. But don't worry, let's take a look at this and try to understand it better. So do you know statistics and probability? If so, that's underpins data science. But if you go into multivariate calculus or linear algebra, those underpin what we call machine learning. Both of these fall into the category which we call artificial intelligence. But if you're not an advanced math person, you still don't have to worry because in a few years, you'll be able to do basic AI stuff in Excel. It's coming, just a matter of time. So what is the purpose of artificial intelligence? Well, we like to tell our customers that AI at its most basic level simply does two things. First is it exponentially accelerates the time it takes to make a decision. And the second thing is that it significantly increases the accuracy of that decision. So it's very interesting. So when you think about the problems that you'll be addressing, are these the types of things that you need to do? And is there data to be able to solve problems to get there? So interestingly enough, AI is even applicable in things we don't necessarily think about. So right here in Houston today, I don't need to check Google Maps to go home, but I probably will just to make sure that the traffic patterns don't necessarily land me in a jam. So even in areas that we may know the answers to things, the ability to achieve and get to decisions and other information, the network effects, is now being used to help people make better decisions. So when do we use AI to solve a problem? So there are three common situations that occur. The first is that we want to use AI in situations where we can eliminate human bias. The second, and by the way, that's a universe of problems in and of itself. So the second is an area where we want to find relationships that humans cannot find the relationships. So we can think maybe in terms of 2 or 3 variables when we look at problems, but we really can't think in terms of 20 variables when we try to solve problems, but AI can. Now, the last thing is related to that. So AI can help us extract complex relationships between variables to then develop robust predictions. So what do you need? Well, the first and most important thing you'll need if you have a problem that fits this sorts of descriptions is data. And if you have the data, then the next thing you'll need is the computational power to be able to then do it. So what are some common applications of AI? So students in the audience are out in a very, very interesting time. When I graduated from college, it was really the beginning of the computing era, which sort of dates me, but it's okay. You guys are sitting on top of coming out of a very different situation. The computing power is there, and the AI applications are in use today, but they're in use in a lot of areas, but they're still underdeveloped as it relates to what is going to be possible in the future. So common applications that you guys probably use every day and see every day when you're on the web, where it is able to tell you and make suggestions as to the types of things that you might want to buy or go. You have personal assistants. We all familiar with facial recognition, surveillance systems, even in airports now, biometric scanning. All of that is made possible by AI. Even optical character recognition is made possible by AI. And so all of these are things that we already see. In an exciting new area, which you'll be seeing more and more of, will be self-driving cars. Also very much possible by AI. But there's all kinds of new stuff and other things that you may not be thinking of. So for example, did you know that IBM was able to use Watson to figure out new recipes for cooking? Or in a world where we're increasingly looking at moving away from fossil fuels, AI can be used to look at the prediction of battery life cycles and be able to figure out when you might need to replace something before it goes bad. Well, here's something very interesting. AI can actually produce art. So it turns out that if you feed images to a computer long enough, it starts to figure out how images are supposed to look or how to piece cognitive things together. And so it can even produce artwork. And interestingly enough, if you don't know what kind of artwork you like, AI can actually help you figure out what kind of art you like by giving you pictures and having you choose between them, and then telling you these might be artists or places that you might go to find things that you enjoy. So these are things that museums are even using now. Here's something really exciting. We all saw in the last year how fast they were able to develop COVID vaccines. Why was that possible? Well, this is a very long list of the drug discovery workflow. And 3 key areas of that workflow: generating data and models, generating novel drug candidates, and validating and optimizing candidates have all been significantly improved with respect to cycle time because of AI. So these are all areas that really allowed us to get our vaccines so much faster than we would have ever done before. Went from years to simply months. And then an area that I'm working in the energy sector, looking at water. How do we predict water from wells? Allowing us to then make better decisions about water management, conservation, and recycling. So it's not only about banking and finance and advertising, but we are now getting into places where AI is going into the domain of physics, where physics has solved problems for 100 years. But now even geoscientists and petrophysicists are starting to look at AI as a way to account for human variables and bias that go into decision-making processes to still look at even better ways to optimize production and do better things. So some of you may have already heard that AI algorithms can be biased, and that's true. The reason they become biased is because they're given the wrong data. They're given not enough data. And the reality is that that is why you still need people. You still need people, bright humans, conscientious humans, that keep AI algorithms out in the open sphere so that we can then look for and account for that bias. And so if AI happens in the open, then errors and flaws can be discovered in time, perhaps by other AIs. And this is already happening in situations where you have two AI networks that learn from each other. All right, so let's get back again to why we are here with this group today, the hackathon. So why academia? When Ravi asked me to talk about this subject, I told him that it's super important to me that academia continues to be involved because all of AI is underpinned by open source. And what you're looking at on this screen is actually a picture from a conference held in Brussels in 1927 called the Solvay Conference, where renowned physicists from around the world, in fact, 29 scientists, 17 of which went on to become Nobel Prize winners, met to discuss, amongst other things, quantum theory. And this group coming together, exchanging ideas, is really probably what we would call the first open source conference. They didn't have the internet, but they got together to discuss a whole range of things. And you're looking at some amazing picture, an amazing picture. Schrödinger, Heisenberg, de Broglie, Bohr, Planck, even Einstein, and one woman in here, Madame Curie. So from this meeting and from academia, from bringing people together, is where we get the collaboration and the open thinking that allows us to do great things. And it's very important in AI because open source is what powers AI. So what is open source? So open source software is the software that's available on the internet and has been contributed by academia and even private practitioners to helping increase the value of artificial intelligence applications. So let me kind of help summarize this slide because there's a lot of statistics here. You guys know about how traders online dealt with Robinhood and the crash of that stock and everything else? Well, what was happening was people were collaborating online. And as a worldwide community of people collaborate, interesting things can happen. So there's a site called GitHub, and on that site, people come together to collaborate on projects. And those projects over time have increased and increased in the terms of the number of AI projects that are out there. And you can see that also because of the rapid growth of Python, the programming language, which underpins most of open source AI. Looks like we're running out of time, but the difference between science and other knowledges, our willingness to admit ignorance, our ability to look, observe, and use mathematics and the scientific process to look for answers. And in that process, to acquire new powers. We're here today because we're looking at a hackathon where we're going to be looking for folks out there to come solve and do amazing things. And so corporations, well, we're driven by profit necessarily because we have to keep people employed, but academia is where true collaboration exists that can result in breakthroughs. So good luck to all the teams. You are here because you wanted to be, and that is the first measure of success, you trying. And try and you will succeed. And if you need any more inspiration, I will leave you with this. Check out the binary encoding they did on the Mars parachute. It says, "Dare mighty things." So I wish you all luck as the next generation. We are counting on you. And thank you for letting me come today.
What an inspiration, Aruna. I'm so glad you brought this "Dare Mighty Things" because that is such a call for action for all of us as educators and students. So thank you for sharing the inspiration. I have shared, folks, both Grace and Aruna's LinkedIns. So the fact that they're here to share with you, their work and what they do on a daily basis but also to be available to mentor or bounce ideas off of. Feel free to reach out to them directly, and if you're working on a project and you want to just get an expert's opinion, or even engage them in helping you solve whatever barriers you're facing in your startups or your ideas, both the LinkedIn's are in the chat. And Aruna, I want to remind everybody that this event it's all around sort of a mini hackathon where we want to inspire, we want to network, and we want to build. So we do have in about a minute our third inspiration, followed by a networking event, which I'll share how to join to the students. And then the last part is we're going to do a design thinking building exercise where it's really skill building exercise. And once again, we'll have a special link to join from there as well. And I'm just making that note because a few folks have joined in late, and we want to make sure they know what's going to happen. So thank you so much, Aruna. Folks, if you have any questions for her, use the Q&A. Aruna, if you don't mind, monitor that Q&A and answer them directly. Satyajit, if you get started here, I'm gonna share my screen one more time, just to give a visual cue to the process that I just explained. So I know I'm sharing the mirror screen again, but at the top of our platform here, you have a little agenda that's populating, and we're following this agenda for now. Aruna just wrapped up. Satyajit will start in the next few seconds here. And then again, team build, and then design thinking will wrap up our event for the day. So it is a mini hackathon, and it is intended for us to inspire, network, and then build some solutions that you can take it towards the big TiE hackathon. So Satyajit, when you're ready, I will pass the presenter ball to you. And thank you, Aruna. Thank you so much for that inspiration.
Great talk, Aruna. Thank you. Yes, I think, Ravi, first I want to start with a basic question, right? What did I do to you to put me behind these two great speakers, okay? I'll be kinder, I'll send some flowers, food next time, okay? When Houston is under trouble. Aruna, I think as I was listening to you, I realized more and more that my NI, the natural intelligence, really needs the AI for me to be successful in something. But let's talk about something that I geek out of. It's clear, Aruna, that you geek out about AI, and this is something that I enjoy. Can everybody see my presentation on your screen?
So you're gonna have to use the share button. Try that again, please.
I thought I did, but let me try again. All right, how about now?
You got it. It's here.
Yeah.
Right, the stage is yours.
Excellent. Okay. Let me start a little bit, I think, by asking everybody, and since we have a relatively smaller audience, I don't mind if you come on audio. What does 5G mean to you? Can I get a couple of people's views? I think, what does 5G mean to you? And you can put it on chat, you can come online, either is fine. Okay, wide bandwidth, very good. I heard a couple. I think anybody else? Any other thoughts on what does 5G? Sure, you have heard about 5G. You've seen advertisements. All right. Yeah, I saw one more faster application. Perfect. Yep. So let's look at the 5G stands for fifth generation of wireless. So when we look at wireless, and just a quick historical view, the first G was created about voice. It was just making a phone call. The second generation was adding text messages to it. SMS and text started. Third generation was to really enable internet access on our devices. how can I get to the internet and do basic things, browsing and other things. The fourth generation was really about the video. So this is where we started doing a lot of the apps and other things came in. The road, the mapping app, other things, because we can get information. So a lot of new businesses were created because of this. With video, I think, as you know, TikTok and YouTube and all, they just took off because the ability to view all of them on video. So 4G primarily enabled video. It gave more bandwidth, but the real application is enabled was video. 5G, what is 5G all about, right? And if you look at it, the value kept going up. And on this side, you have consumer-centric. And as we are going in generations, we are going more and more business-centric. So with 5G, what we are going to see is will be a lot more on the business-centric side. Enable more things for businesses to be more efficient in their business, to be providing better services to the business. So 5G is really designed to take us, of course, higher bandwidth, but truly enable very different types of businesses and business models that the current networks did not enable. And I'll give you some examples as we go. Right? I'll leave you with one thought, and just a thought-provoking idea, right, on this slide. Imagine a day where every light bulb and every window in your house has a 5G connection. Right? So if you can imagine that, we'll walk along those paths. Now, it'll take a couple of decades to get there, but that's what we will see. Right? Or everything around you is connected to the network. Right? So at the highest level, let's understand what kind of applications does a 5G network enable. And this is a technical mumbo jumbo, so if you ever read 5G related materials, they'll talk about it. But at the highest level, there are three classes of things that it's designed to do. EMBB, enhanced broadband, really giving up to 20 gigabits. Now, again, these are theoretical aspirational numbers, but people are already showing going up to a 1 gig, 1.5, 2 gig on your mobile device. That is an amazing amount of speed if you think about it, right? So this is where we have higher bandwidth, a lot of nice input that we received, right? That is enabled. So one class of applications that require very high bandwidth. The other class of application we are going to see is this, extremely low latency. So what that means is that today, generally the round trip is somewhere in the order of 20 to between 20 at the best. Generally, it's 50 to 100 milliseconds. So there are many things we cannot do. If you think about it, one of the intersections between very high speed and very low latency is VR, virtual reality applications. So when you are wearing a VR goggle and you are moving your head, it has to be fast enough. Otherwise, people will get sick. It's called basically motion to photon, right? So by doing that, enabling that, we'll have right now, I think with 4G, 3G and 4G, we started having, those of us with kids, I think, we started having those iPads in the back. Days are not far where we'll have, the cars will come with VR goggles in the back for the people who are in the back, right? And the third class of application it'll enable is what is called massive mobile machine tap communications. So this is also referred to as IoT, Internet of Things. You may have heard of that. So what that does is it allows a massive number of devices in a very small place. 1 million devices in 1 square kilometer, if you think about it. And this is what can enable, every watch is connected. Imagine every watch is connected, every car is connected, every user's phone is connected, your credit cards are connected, so forth. Right? So this is enabling very, very different types of services. Aruna spoke about AI, and I think one of the interesting use of AI is doing things very close to where the users are. Right? So a new class of things coming is what is called mobile edge computing. So bringing computing very close to the edge of the network. Second thing that we are going to see is those of you who are in computer science and who already know this stuff is what is virtualization. So if you go to AWS or Microsoft Azure, you can get whatever amount of computing you want on a physically data center. Now 5G brings this thing called network slicing. So it's now virtualizing and slicing a network to what you need. So for example, VR companies want a network that is running at a very low latency, right? Or medical applications. People are talking about robotic surgeries and things like that. They would want something that's running at an extreme low latency versus autonomous cars that Aruna mentioned, right? Or drones that are going to be flying around. They would want a massive IoT slice. So different applications need different behavior from the network and for the network to be able to provide that. So that's a very interesting way of thinking that I can slice the network to what I want it to do. So companies like AT&T, Verizon, T-Mobile, Dish in the future, they will enable such things for us, for people, application developers. So now let me turn to the audience or the students who are in computer science or who are competing for this, right? So we started, I think, in the 70s, 80s, 90s, computing started. We had a client-server model. So there was a client, there was a server, and things were centralized. Then we went to where apps came in, and some intelligence went to the device, and some remained on the cloud. And now we are going to, 5G is going to bring truly distributed applications. Example would be, let's say you have a security application and you have security cameras, and the security cameras are looking. And simple example, enabling what Aruna talked about, AI, 5G, security, a lot of things. So let's say you lost your dog and you really wanted to enable finding your dog. Now, so many cameras are there in the society. They could be looking for all the dogs that are here. You could have a local AI running on this mobile edge computing, which is going to basically find matching of your dog's picture. And when it is done, then some application will notify you. So some things will happen very at the device. Some things will happen very close to the wherever the edge of the network is. Some things will happen in the data center and so forth. So this is where 5G is going to enable for you guys, especially the next generation. We used to have a network that was designed for one application. We had a voice network, we had data networks. That's the history. Then we went to one in 4G and all, we went to one network, all IP, Internet Protocol driven network, and then serve everything. Now we are saying, hey, I want to slice the network. I want the network behavior to reflect my application's needs. And same physical network, very different behavior from the same physical network. Next thing I wanted to say is, so what happens behind the scene at the telco world? Again, speaking to the computer people and those who are in the programming and who want to solve the next generation challenges, right? Telcos were very big on physical things. Okay, I have my machines or computers. Then virtualization has now started coming in. And now they are moving towards microservices and serverless computing and all of that. So as you have learned, or some of you who are participating in the hackathon, you are very comfortable with this world. You know how to go to Amazon, or you know how to go to a cloud, fire off your application, test your application, all of that. 5G and the telco world is way away from that. It is living in a very hardware-centric world. So guess what this creates, right? This creates so many opportunities for folks like you and the entrepreneurs to say, hey, how do I go and enable telco specifically, plus all these applications that we talked about on 5G? How do we take advantage of these different aspects that 5G is offering to create new services, new business models, and to the point that Grace made, how can we impact the society? Because now this allows you to bring healthcare to places where there's no healthcare. This allows you to bring education to places where there's no education. And this is where 5G, and it allows you to, if you think about the amount of data 5G can help you collect and then apply AI on it, so that you collect the data using 5G and other modes, apply AI, and find real social issues and impact. So everybody who has spoken here, 5G can enable some of the aspirations that they brought today. So let me summarize. I think I'm just going to, in summary, talk one more time about this one key part. 5G is not just a new network. It is a platform for all industries. It's a platform for creation for us. So that's what 5G is bringing, is a new platform to serve different industries. So now I'm going to have a quick quiz here for you. I have 2 minutes, I get that. So what I would like to do is I'll put a picture and you have to talk about what industry this is about. Just put it in the chat. Can anybody guess what this industry